Welcome viewers, is another episode just as math, but today we are going to look at what we call social studies when it comes to map work. Now, when a map is just a representation of the earth or part of the earth on actually a flat surface. Now, when you look at my map, we have what we call good element of a map. For a map to be good, it must have what we call: one is a title, two is a frame, three is a compass, four key, and 5 it is a scale. That's what we call good element of a map. Now we have what we call map interpretation. This means pertains all features and symbols found on the map, and you have to understand the meaning of all those symbols and features found on a map. Now look at my map. Now let's look at what we call to the northwest side. Now we have here some features, and when you look at my key, these are shrubs. This means this area to the northwest, this area is very dry, because dry vegetation, that is shrubs, indicate that this area to the northwest is actually very dry. Now when you come to this side, you look, we have what we call a lake, and this lake has got what we call fish trap. When you look here, fish trap. So this means people living near this lake, they do what we call fishing. That's why you can see we have fish trap. Now to the northern part, you can see we have a forest, and this is what we call the highland, because when you look at the highland, we have what we call forest, and is where the river Raya originates and drains its water to this lake. Now we have features formed at the source of a river, and we have only two features. One is tributary. Tributaries are small rivers that join to form a large river, and we have what we call a confluence. A confluence is where a tributary joins the main river. Now when this water drains and pour its water into a lake, we have some features formed at the mouth of a river, and we have two features. One can either be a delta. When you look at here on this map, this is what we call a delta. A delta is whereby a river drains its water to a lake or an ocean using two or more channels. Now, but when water drains its water to a lake using one channel is known as an estuary. So you have to understand that one channel, an estuary. Two or more channels is known as a delta. Now, when you look at what we call settlement, so when you look at all these dots is what we call settlements here. Now, we have types of settlement. When you look at this, people tend to live along the road. This is known as linear settlement. Linear actually derived from the term line. So it is linear settlement. Now, when you look at here, where we said it's a dry area where we have shrubs, you can see people living far away from each other. This means this is known as scattered or sparsely settlement or scattered settlement. Now, look at here. This type of settlement, people tend to live in groups. You live in groups. So this one is known as a nucleated or cluster settlement. Nucleated or cluster is where people actually live in groups. Now look at this farming. We have here, this is a tea and this is coffee. This means to the southern part of the map, southern and southeast part of the map, the climatic condition here is cool and wet. So cool tea and coffee normally do well in cool and wet climate, and we have other crops like pyrethrum and also dairy farming normally do well in cool and wet climate. When you look to the northern part here, this is what we call sugarcane. Now when you talk about sugarcane do well in climatic condition that is hot and wet. Sugarcane is used to make sugar and also used to make jaggery. Jaggery is actually sukari nguru, jaggery. So it's used to make jaggery. When you look here, we have another economic activity, and we have a sawmill. Sawmill means people living in this area, they do what we call lumbering. Lumbering is actually using, they actually get trees from the forest and they get what we call timber. That's what we call lumbering. Also, we have another economic activity here, that is fishing, because you have fish trap. So what do you have to understand? Presence of a lake on a map, or a river on a map, or a dam on a map does not indicate people living in that area they do fishing. This means they must have what we call fish trap, unless there is what we call a fish pond. Also, fish market does not indicate people living in that area they do fishing, unless they what we call fish trap or fish pond. Now, let's come to here and look how to call dominion or religion. This is a church. This means people living in this area, they are actually Christians. And when you look at this area, we have a mosque. This means people living in this area, they are Muslims. There is other scenarios whereby you can find we have a shrine. A shrine on a map means people living in that area, they are traditionalists. They are traditionalists. And some others you may find on a map, there's no any religion. This means people living in that area, they are pagans. They are pagans. Now, when we try to look at, we have another economic activity here that's known as a quarry. A quarry means people living in this area, they do what we call mining. They do what we call mining. Now, also here, we have other economic activity that can be practiced in some semi-arid area, like what we call pastoralism. Pastoralism can be indicated by boreholes, or can be indicated by abata. Abata is just a slaughterhouse, can be indicated. Now, when it comes to the highest point, I think the highest point is on the mountain, where on the mountain or the forest where the river originates, because normally river originate from the highest point to the lowest point. It cannot originate from the lowest point to the highest point, and that's what you have to know. Now, when you look at our river, it's actually meandering down the stream when it drains its water to the lake, and also when you look at our road, it's just meandering. This means the topography of this land is very poor. It can either be an obstacle of a mountain, a rock that makes a river to meander, or also a road to meander. Now, we have also a school here. This is a school. Now, we have another one. We have a very good road, tarmac road. Let me say tarmac road. We have a hill here. We have a bridge here. And we have what we call administration. Now, look here. We have what we call PS, police station. And local police stations to maintain law and order. That everyone knows. And here we have what we call governor's office. This means Dele area is a county headed by a governor. But there is another scenario whereby you can find on a map, we have what we call governor's residence. Governor's residence on a map does not show that that area is a county. No. You have to look for other alternative administrator who is higher rank. It can either be a sublocation, a location, a district, a province, or a sub, and so forth and so forth. So you have to look at an administrator. But when it comes to a governor's residence, chief's residence, president's residence, does not indicate that area pertains certain administration. Now, when we look at this map, we have what we call, to the southern part of a map, we have type of soil. Soil found here is black cotton soil. Coffee and tea normally do well in black cotton soil, and this one, sugarcane, do well in deep volcanic soil. Deep volcanic soil.